Hey guys, welcome back. Here's another video, and this is going to be once again finding a relative maximum or minimum, but this time I'm going to close the interval. This is the most important part of this. I'm going to close the interval. So what does that mean? I'm going to restrict the interval. In all our other examples, I went from negative infinity to positive infinity. Now I'm going to tell you a closed interval, and I'm going to give you the closed interval, and you're going to tell me what the relative, I should put there, closed, what the relative max and min is. Okay, so we know f of x equals 2x minus 6 is a line. We know that a line is just going to keep going, and there's not going to be a maximum number or a minimum number, right? There's no maximum, there's no minimum, it just keeps going. Well, what if I said, what is the maximum from on the closed interval -1 to 2? Well, what that means is, let me grab it, at -1, whatever that value is, and let's say 2, so that's going to be like, let's just say this one, my figure is not drawn to scale. I only want to take a look at this piece here. So if I'm looking at this piece here, I know that I'm going to have a maximum and a minimum, okay? So anytime you have a closed interval, you're going to have a maximum and a minimum. Whereas if you have an open interval, like in this case here, if I had this and I didn't restrict my interval, you're not going to have a max or a min. So first thing that you have to do for closed intervals is you must plug in the number on both ends of the interval. That's your first step. So when you put a -1 in there, you get 2 times -1 minus 6. You're not taking any derivatives, okay? You're just plugging in the number. So 4 minus 6 is -2. Right now, this is your, let me get rid of, well, let me change pens. Right now, this is your minimum, and this is your maximum, okay? That's right now. Now, you have to take the derivative and do all the rules that we did in our last video. So f prime of x is equal to 2. We got to set f prime to 0. Well, there's nothing to solve for, so you're basically done. And now you have your maximum. Your max, so be sure that you understand that your max is at x equals 2, and your max value is -2. Your minimum is at x equals -1, and your minimum value is -8, okay? So make sure you watch the other videos. I'm going to do one more problem. I actually didn't prepare for it, but that's fine. Why don't we do something like f of x is equal to upside down parabola, so something that looks like this, and I'm going to restrict my domain to 0, 3. So let's find the absolute value, the absolute max and the absolute min. So I forgot to mention that this is not called the relative max and relative min anymore. Because the interval's closed, this is called the absolute extrema, and it's absolute max, absolute min. Okay, f of 0 is equal to 0. F of 3 is equal to -9 plus 9, which is also 0. Okay, now why don't we take the derivative and see if we have of this and follow the same rules. So I'm going to do f prime of x is equal to -2x plus 3. I'm going to set it equal to 0. Okay, I'm going to add 2x and then divide. Well, I have 1.5, right? Or 3/2. Is 1.5 a value in this interval? Sometimes you solve for x, right? Sometimes you solve for the critical number, and the critical number is not in the interval, which I'll show you in future videos. That means you just reject those numbers. But 1.5 happens to be between 0 and 3, so we're going to keep it. So what does my number line look like? Well, in other videos, it used to be from infinity, negative infinity to infinity, but now it's from 0 to 3. I'm going to put 1.5 in there. I'm going to pick a number here and here, so I'm going to pick 1 for this guy. So what is f of 1 is equal? F of 1 is equal to, remember I have to go to my derivative, right? So if I put a 1 in there, that's why it's so important to do this here. If I put a, I'm sorry, I should have put that there. f prime of 1 is equal to negative 2 plus 3, so that's a positive. And what is f prime of 2? That's going to be a negative. So this is a max because it went up and down, right? And so 1.5 is a max. Now we need to see if 3 halves is bigger than 0 or less than 0, so we can have a minimum or a max depending, okay? So 1.5, we're going to have negative 9 fourths plus 9 halves, okay? And then if I just combine this by multiplying this both by 2, then I'm going to have positive 9 fourths, which is basically 2.25. So that's actually bigger than these two. So I have two mins, 0 and 3, because they both gave you the same number. So these are called absolute minimums. And this is my absolute maximum because 2.25 is bigger than 0. And that's how we do absolute extrema of a function on a closed interval. So come back for some more videos on